Hey everyone, and welcome to Instant News, the channel that gets you caught up fast. Baldur's Gate 3 was a massive hit, but the studio behind it just made a shocking announcement. So the big question is, why would a company walk away from a guaranteed success? Stay with us as we break it down. And hey, if you like what you see, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Instant News. Now, over to our host.
Thanks. Okay, let's dive into this. It's almost impossible to overstate just how successful Baldur's Gate 3 was. I mean, it didn't just win Game of the Year in 2023, it basically swept everything. And to put its sales into perspective, it sold almost double what Larian's last huge hit did. We're talking about a true mega blockbuster. And that's what makes this quote from Larian CEO Swen Vincke so surprising. He officially confirmed the studio is not making any downloadable content for Baldur's Gate 3, and they're not making a sequel either. They're moving on entirely. This left everybody asking the exact same question. Why? To understand a decision this big, you really need to understand the studio that made it. So, here's our roadmap. We're going to look at their early struggles, cover the turning point that eventually led them to Baldur's Gate 3, and then really dig into the reasons they're moving on. And finally, what they're planning next. Let's get into it. This decision to leave Baldur's Gate behind makes a whole lot more sense when you look at Larian's history. You see, they've been fighting for their creative vision for over 20 years now. For their first 3 big games in the Divinity series, Larian kept hitting this same wall. Publishers rushing their games to release. This meant features got cut, quests had to be rewritten, and the studio was constantly on the verge of closing down, even when their games actually sold pretty well. So they needed to completely change how they made games. And that's where Divinity Original Sin comes into the picture. For what was basically a do-or-die project, Larian went directly to the players. They used crowdfunding and released the game in early access. This gave them the money they needed, but just as importantly, it gave them community feedback so they could finally make their full vision a reality. Now, this is really interesting. If you loved the combat in Baldur's Gate 3, well, it was built on everything Larian learned making their own system for the Divinity Original Sin games. They basically mastered making these turn-based RPGs on their own terms first. The success of the Original Sin series gave them the experience, and maybe more importantly, the trust from players to take on their biggest challenge yet, Baldur's Gate 3. The game took 6 whole years to make, which the studio actually admits was too long. See, they usually aim for a 3 to 4 year cycle. And the hurdles they had to overcome were just huge. It wasn't one thing. It was a mix of their own massive creative ambitions and a bunch of unforeseen global events that just stretched the development time to its absolute limit. Which brings us right back to our main question. After all that work and all that success, why stop now? For Swen Vincke, the answer is simple. It's all about the studio's identity. Larian was built to take risks and to create new things, not to just rehash their past successes, no matter how much money it could make. And get this, Vincke has said that for years, he's had a plan to build what he calls a very big RPG that will dwarf them all. So each game, including Baldur's Gate 3, is just a stepping stone that lets the team learn and develop the technology they need for that ultimate goal. Another key reason was the rules themselves. Working with the Dungeons & Dragons license meant they had to adapt this massive, complicated rulebook. Vincke said a goal for their next project is to not have such complicated rules, which gives them a lot more creative freedom. So, if it's not Baldur's Gate 4, what is the next step in their grand plan? Well, Larian is going home. That's right, they are returning to their own world. Now, it's not Original Sin 3, but a totally new entry in the mainline series, which Vincke has already described as their biggest, most ambitious RPG yet. So what might this new game look like? Well, fans are already buzzing. A lot of people are hoping to see some of the awesome quality of life features from Baldur's Gate 3, like those cinematic dialogues and the jump button, combined with some of the beloved mechanics from the Divinity series. So what this really boils down to is this. Larian is taking the massive success from Baldur's Gate 3 and investing it all, not in a safe sequel, but in their own creative vision. It's a really bold move that puts passion over profit. What a story! A huge thanks to our host for that breakdown. So, what do you think of Larian's decision? And what features do you want to see in the new Divinity game? Let us know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Instant News for more explainers just like this one. See you next time!